Yo, what's going on, everybody? I wanted to hop on here and tell you guys the story of why me and my college roommate hated each other and the events that took place for us to hate each other. So let's get into it. So one incident was pretty early on in the school year. I had met a girl and I was, frequently seeing her. We would go out and party and she would come up to my dorm room. She basically lived in our dorm room, which he wasn't pleased about, but that's a whole other thing. Me and this girl, we would get after it quite frequently, and on one of these occurrences, I realized I had run out completely of all the condoms the residence gives you. So I thought, hey, my roommate Luke, he's probably got some of those free ones they gave us still, and he wasn't home, right? So I couldn't just like kick her out because I was out of condoms. Fuck that. So I snuck over to my roommate Luke's room, and I didn't have the foresight at the time to bring a blanket or a t-shirt or basically anything to cover myself with. Well, just my luck, my roommate was coming home from class at pretty much that exact moment. And when he opened the door, I was fully standing in his room. Like, when you see a Sasquatch walking and they're looking at the camera just stunned? That was me, deer in the headlights, in his room, looking at him, naked and fully hard. Now, me and him locked eyes and I didn't know what to do. I just kind of hit him with a, oh shit, and then scurried back to my room. He didn't even ask any questions. He just shut the door and dipped. I don't think he was trying to deal with that at all. I just kind of waited around the room, anxiously waiting to explain myself, but it was way too early on in me and him knowing each other for this to happen, so it wasn't really a funny thing. It was more weird, It wasn't like a close friend I've known forever. I just met this guy. So things weren't really off to a great start. Now, another thing you need to know about my roommate Luke is the program he was in and the people he would hang out with. He was in the aviation program. He was trying to become a pilot. So him and all his friends were basically just carbon copies. I mean, they had the exact same shitty sense of humor, the same personality, and they wore the same outfit. They were the same people. These guys would get ready in the morning, they'd put on their uniform, their little pins, their shoulder stripes, their hat, and then walk around the hallways like they owned the place. They thought they were top shit. I mean, these guys would walk around the hallways in like a V formation, talking really loud, as if they were headed across the tarmac to a real fighter jet headed out to active duty. And I had the lovely experience of rooming with one of them. So when I would come home from class, there would often be like 9 or 10 of these guys hanging out in my dorm room. And they would try and like pull pranks on me. And it was like the gayest pranks of all time. I mean, one time they filled my fridge and freezer with vape smoke because they all vaped. So when I came home from class to get a drink, I just like opened my fridge and got hit with a massive plume of like chili mango strawberry or just something cringe as hell. And then another time they took my dorm room and our kitchen and flipped everything upside down. So like the table, the chairs, the milk. There would be like 9 of these zesty ass dudes in my room grinning and snickering, looking at each other like they just pulled off the funniest prank of all time. At one point I even tried introducing Luke to my friends. I had a few friends from high school who also lived in our residence, so I would go hang out in their rooms frequently. So one of these times I brought my roommate Luke to try and see if he got along with them, and it was a disaster. I mean, the personalities did not clash well. They completely disagreed on everything and just not the same sense of humor. Also, he didn't tell us that he like never smoked weed because that's what we always did, and he got way too high. He like melted down in front of us. It was extremely awkward. We didn't really like each other and neither one of us wanted to hang out. But there was no animosity, we still got along on a sense where we respected each other. But that eroded quickly because if you recall, I mentioned a girl living in our room with us. The girl I was seeing at the time was basically just in our room 24/7, taking up space and utilities. She would occupy the shower and the washroom, and it was just an extra body in already extremely tight living conditions. But since I was sleeping with this girl, it didn't even register with me that Luke might feel like disregarded and disrespected. Like, I didn't think this was a big deal at all. Looking back, I now see why this would be extremely annoying. So in the morning, he would have to get up way earlier than me or the girl because his classes just were very early. Like, I mean, this guy was up at like 6:30 every single day, and I would be hungover as fuck, so would she, and he would just play Purple Rain on full blast on a mini speaker as he showered and got ready. And I mean, obviously, the mixtape is sick. Obviously, it's goated, but I'm not trying to wake up to that at 6:30 a.m. every day. He would leave the bathroom in the worst condition imaginable. I mean, there would be beard hair all over the sink. If he shaved his pubes, they would be all over the toilet seat and in the bowl. I felt like Jonah Hill.
Fuck, man. If I go in there and see fucking pubes sprinkled on the toilet seat, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Last time I went to the bathroom, Jay, I took a shit and my shit looked like a fucking stuffed animal.
So he was leaving the bathroom in complete disarray, and then he began leaving all his dirty dishes in the sink to pile up for what felt like days. He would use his own and then eventually move on to dirtying mine. I couldn't get a fork or a spoon or even a plate anytime I needed anything because he had used it and it was dirty in the sink. I was getting very frustrated very quickly at this point. Our room was actually beginning to smell. Not only would he leave all his dirty dishes in the sink for days, he would let the garbage overflow. I had taken it out so many times in a row, I was kind of just leaving it there, waiting for him to finally do it once, but he never would. He would leave old, expired food in the fridge. He was just a really gross, unsanitary guy. And he was making our room have a bad odor, to the point where the girl that I was seeing actually disliked going to my room because my roommate made it smell. Somehow he found a girl who did not care about his unhygienic ways, and she would be over a lot, which I couldn't say anything about because I also had a girl over frequently. But they were different. They would fight, they would fuck, they would yell, they would do all these things as if I wasn't there. They were shameless. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. Things that I would be embarrassed to do, most people would be, they didn't seem to care. It was as if I didn't exist. They were extremely loud. They would talk and yell and fight as if they were in a massive home, not a dorm room with a roommate. It was also common for them to fall asleep with his TV on, so I would have the pleasure of listening to whatever movie they were watching and what proceeded to play after they fell asleep. It would just be blaring all night. I'm a very light sleeper, so this really pissed me off. Our dorm room had the main door, and then each of us had our own bedroom door. Every single time I left this dorm room, I shut my bedroom door. I even locked it. All the doors in this residence could be opened using the credit card trick when you just swipe it through and push it at the same time. Sometimes I'd come home from class and my door would be open, and I knew it was either him or his little shithead pilot friends. Nobody was ever there either. Like, it wasn't like I opened the door, my room was open, and they were in it. I would come home, and at some point throughout the day, someone was in there. But at this point, I was at my wit's end. I was at my breaking point. So I went out and I collected all his nasty-ass dirty dishes. I swept up his mess in the bathroom, took all his gross-ass pubes and beard hair and dirty dishes and moldy food in the fridge and his overflowing garbage, all the shit he would leave around, and I dumped it in his fucking room. I put the dirty dishes on his bed. I put the pubes all over the carpet. I threw moldy trash and food on his desks. Once he came home to that, I think he got the message. We didn't even have a big blowout. I mean, I was fully expecting an exchange of words, maybe even physical, but this guy was not about it. I was relieved, though. I didn't want to have that confrontation. I didn't want to scrap, so I don't know. It worked out better than I expected, and after this, we didn't speak much. We didn't see each other much. I was still seeing that girl, and he was seeing some girl who lived off campus. He would go to her house all the time. He had his own car, so he never came back to the dorm room much. That was like heaven for me. For the remainder of the year, I had this massive dorm that I lived in completely by myself. Once we moved out of residence, I never saw Luke again. I never spoke with Luke, and neither of us follow each other on any social media. That was a long time ago, and I have no idea what that guy's up to. Anyways, that's the story of why me and my roommate hated each other. Thanks for listening. If you got it this far, I appreciate you. Peace.